welcome to this week's episode of Dadas Show, coming to you from Best Western Hotel, Upper Hill here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. The Dadas Show aspires to promote the spirit of sisterhood amongst women of Kenya. And we do this by creating an open and a safe platform for women to discuss issues pertaining to their health, their lifestyle, their works, their careers, amongst others. Now, according to a paper published by the National Library of Medicine, the human papillomavirus HPV provides protection against HPV type 16 and 18, which are responsible for approximately 70% of all the cervical cancer cases. The paper also indicated that the optimal age of vaccination is during the adolescent period. In 2019, Kenya introduced the HPV vaccination that was supposed to be issued to girls aged between age 10 to 13 years old. However, the uptake was suboptimal. Of course, factors such as the disruption of the COVID-19 disruption and public misinformation have attributed to this. So, where do you stand on this? How much information do you have on the HPV vaccine? So, playing our part in creating awareness, we want to help you to make an informed decision. So, we have brought together and invited industry specialists as well as parents to discuss and expound on the HPV vaccine. As always, we encourage you at home to take part on this and any conversation that we may have by contacting us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach out to me directly on my personal page at Ashiko Mbune, the host. Now, before we get into today's conversation, let's have a look at the following feature.
Human papillomavirus is an infection that causes warts in various parts of the body depending on the strain. HPV is the most commonly sexually transmitted infection. Many people with HPV don't develop any symptoms but can still infect others through sexual contact. Symptoms may include warts on the genital or surrounding skin. There is no cure for the virus and warts may go away on their own. A vaccine that prevents the HPV strain most likely to cause genital warts and cervical cancer is recommended for both male and female. Professor Nelly Mugo of Kenya Medical Research Institute, that's KEMRI, talks about the effectiveness and emphasis on the importance of taking the vaccine. HPV vaccination provides protection against HPV type 16 and 18, which are responsible for approximately 70% of cervical cancer cases. The optimal age of vaccination is in the early adolescent period before one is sexually active. Former Health Cabinet Secretary Sisi Kariuki assured Kenyans that the proposed HPV vaccine is safe and aims at protecting adolescent girls against cervical cancer infection.
Leo hii watoto na kina mama 5,200 kwa kila mwaka wanakuwa na huu ugonjwa. Tukianzilisha huu mradi, tuko na nia ya kufikia wasichana wa umri wa miaka 10 ambao watakuwa 800,000 na kupitia miezi 6 tutarudia hii chanjo. Chanjo hii wenzangu itakuwa bure kwa hospitali zote ikiwepo ni public, ni ya za binafsi na pia faith based. Niwahakikishie wazazi na guardians ya kwamba hii chanjo ni salama, haina madhara yoyote kwa mwili. Kwa hivyo tutoke tupeleke wasichana wetu ndio tuzuilie maafa ambao tumeona kutokana na mambo ya saratani, particularly ya matiti kwa kina mama na mlango wa kizazi. And I'm appreciating those who may not understand this language, particularly Gavi, our very, very trusted and valued partner in this process, UNICEF, WHO, and if you can kindly be upstanding, all the development partners, for us to appreciate you, the team which is there, the team which is here, for working with us. Allow me, Your Excellency, to also now appreciate the other partners, including the civil society, the faith-based organizations represented here by the bishop, but a lot of them here and some behind you. If you could be upstanding so that we can also appreciate you. Your Excellency, they have helped us with the naysayers that the governor spoke about in confirming that this, please be seated, this vaccination, which is going to be part of our routine vaccinations, is safe, is already administered in 115 countries. We have done our own pilot here in the county of Kitui in the years 14-15, and we did not record any adverse effect whatsoever. So it is safe, and I want to appreciate all of you. Allow me, Your Excellency, to also finally appreciate my own team. They have worked overnight together with the team of this county, and we are all ready to capture the 800,000 girls who are aged 10 this year and a repeat coming 6 months later.
Despite the HPV vaccine being free in hospitals, not many Kenyans are aware of the free vaccination and let alone what HPV is. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta launched the vaccination campaign in October 2019 with a target to reach 800,000 girls with 2 doses of the vaccine 6 months apart. The former president launched a vaccination campaign at protecting Kenyan women against cervical cancer. The vaccine against human papillomavirus was administered to girls aged 10 years across the country.
Welcome back. So as I mentioned earlier before the break, we are discussing the HPV vaccine in an attempt to demystify it and to debunk it. And as I mentioned, I am joined by industry experts who will assist us, who will answer our questions in regards to this particular vaccine and this particular issue. So joining me is Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, and she is a physician and a radiation oncologist. She will tell us more about herself as we proceed. And next to her, we have a parent that is Linnea Abonyo. Linnea Abonyo is a parent who will give us, it's good to hear what the mothers out there are thinking in regards to the HPV vaccination. We also have a number of parents in our audience, and of course I cannot fail to acknowledge each and every one of you who's sitting there for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit with me as we discuss contentious issues affecting women and of course people of this country. So to get the ball rolling, I'll start off with you, Dr. I want to thank you for making time to sit with us. I know you're a very, very busy lady. So I'm very grateful that you made time to sit with us. So as a physician, as an oncologist, let's start from the basic. What should Kenyans know about the HPV vaccine and why is it important?
Okay, so thank you so much for having me on your show. And I thank the audience for being there. So I'm Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. I am an oncologist or a cancer specialist. And working in this cancer space, we've noted that in Kenya, cervical cancer is the second, or let me say it's the second commonest cancer among women, just after breast cancer. And this is a preventable disease. And for me, it is important because we know that over 97% of these cervical cancer cases that we are reporting in our country are HPV related, so they are caused by HPV, and that is why it is important to focus efforts on how do we prevent cervical cancer by explaining that it can actually be prevented by just simple vaccination. The way we immunize our children during following the KBC schedule, we can also immunize our children with HPV, and this offers some protection to the children in terms of preventing cervical cancer and even other types of cancers like tonsil, tongue cancer. It can also prevent genital warts. These are some growths or a canopy that can form in the genitals. So it has HPV virus is quite significant in our community, and we need to be aware about it.
Thank you so much. That's really well put, Dr. I like what you said, just like the vaccination. People don't sit down and question when a child has been born and we're taking them for the BCG and
Yes.
you know. So
And
it's a similar, just like the vaccination, this one is equally important.
Definitely. You don't wait for your child to get measles before you take for vaccination.
Yeah.
It is better you give the vaccine early. Even we give BCG to protect them against TB. It's not that you wait for your child to be exposed,
Yes.
but vaccinate them early. They say prevention is better than
It's
cure.
better than cure.
And we've seen that for us, unfortunately, most of the women never had an opportunity to be given this HPV vaccine. They are getting cervical cancer, and cervical cancer is the leading cause of death in women with cancer.
Yeah.
So it is very important that this is a public health care problem, and we need to work together to fight this menace.
Oh, thank you so much, Daktari. Now, Madam Linnea, you are also of the opinion that prevention is better than cure. You're a mom, you know, just like the moms who are watching us today, and you do have a daughter, and you decided to get her vaccinated. First of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you opted for the HPV vaccination.
Okay, thank you for having me in the show. Thank you, audience, and even those who are watching us from home. I'm Linnea Abonyo. I'm a mother, a banker, marketer, and right now I'm in business. I'm a business lady. When I first heard about the HPV vaccination, I embraced it because having people around us who have been affected in one way or the other with cervical cancer, I thought this was a good idea, just like any other infectious disease. Like maybe if you hear of malaria and you hear that there's a vaccine for malaria, you'd really embrace it. So I'm aware of myths that surrounded it, people questioning and everything, but I did my research. And after doing my research, I read why I did my research. I contacted medics about it, and I was told it's safe, and I felt it's safe. So I gave my consent, and my daughter got the vaccine. Since she got the vaccine, she's leading a normal life, just like any other child. I'm not seeing anything unique, anything that has changed in her.
She's not gotten a bust of hair growing from
No,
her
no,
ears.
no, 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 nothing unique. She's just having a milestone, a teenage milestone, just like any other teenager.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm very positive and very optimistic about the HPV vaccine. And I would encourage any mother, any caregiver, any guardian who is having a girl between age of 10 to 15 or even up to 26, because even then they can still get 3 doses, to take it up, not to listen to myths about it. Yes.
Thank you so much, Linnea. Now, still on the topic of myths and reactions, of course, the vaccination was met with a myriad of reactions. You know, others like Linnea embrace the effort that the government has put in, you know, in eradication of cervical cancer, while others were not so welcoming to the idea. In your professional opinion, Daktari, what are some of the factors that are attributed to the low uptake of the vaccination?
So there are various factors. One is lack of awareness or knowledge of the importance of the HPV vaccine. Another thing is just the myths and misconceptions, and then cultural barriers. So if we look at the lack of awareness or education in the community, many mothers or many women are not aware about this vaccine. They are also not aware that cervical cancer is a major public health care problem. And once we educate and inform them, the uptake is going to improve. On misconception, there are people who say that this vaccine is not safe, but I'm here to say that it is actually approved by the US FDA approved. It's approved by the World Health Organization, and it is a vaccine that has been extensively researched, and there's continuous monitoring of any side effect that can occur, and it has been shown beyond reasonable doubt that this is a very safe vaccine, and the side effects that the person or the child may experience after immunization is very minimal. They are not life-threatening. You may have itching around the area, some slight pain, headache, just the way we reacted to COVID vaccine when it came.
Yeah.
So it is very safe. And then there are some cultural barriers. People fear, some say that when you get the vaccine, the child may get infertility, but that is not the true picture on the ground. It is still that this vaccine is safe, and any girl between the age of 9 to 15 can get 2 doses, and then beyond the age of 15, FDA has approved it up to the age of 45, and those people between 15 and 45 need 3 doses. And it's very, very safe. And knowing that cervical cancer is the major killer for our mothers, I think it is a wake-up call that all the mothers should take their girls for the vaccination. And then I think there's something that, one thing they said, they thought that this vaccine can cause infertility. It is not true. And when the government rolled out this pilot of HPV, there was a lot of that misconception. So all these batches were actually tested for any traces of fertility medicine like estrogen, and they were found they do not have any trace of that estrogen. So the HPV vaccine does not cause infertility.
Thank you so much. So there you've had it. The HPV vaccine does not cause infertility. So at least that's one myth that has already been debunked. We'll get into other myths as we proceed. So actually, you know, Linnea, what are the others? We've had the one for infertility. We've had about it is not safe. What other myths and misconceptions have you had? Because I believe that there are people at home who are raising their hand and saying, I know it will do this, I know it will do that. Yeah.
Okay, actually, the major myth is infertility, and then there's also a belief that it's like a form of family planning, so that in the future our girls will not be able to give birth to many children.
So it's population control.
Population control.
Yes, there was one where we were the test subjects, apparently. We are the test subjects, and why is it being tested out in Kenya? You know, perhaps, Dr. expound to us about exactly how vaccination works, because I feel like people don't understand. So, you know, why are you infecting a child with a sexually transmitted disease, etc.? Just explain to us how vaccination works.
So this is a vaccine that has been there for over 20 years. So it's not like it's something new, and it has been going on, and it is safe. So in terms of how they work, is that a vaccine is supposed to, it's an attenuated virus. So it is not going to cause infection in your body or in a child's body. But it works best when it's given before exposure to the agent that, for example, human papilloma virus. So we give it in a younger age group, and that age group have a robust immune system.
Yes.
So when you give the virus, they're able to mount good immunity to protect, to arm themselves, ready to fight any of the viruses that will come across. For example, if it's measles, we immunize our children before they get measles. When the child gets measles, already now, even if you give the vaccine, it will not be as effective. But if you give them before they get exposure, then the immunity is good, it is robust, and they are able to react, and the body arms itself. So when the virus comes to the body much later, it is kicked off. The body just clears it off very, very quickly. And that is why they are even recommending this vaccine for the younger children between 9 to 15. That is when the immunity is strongest.
Yeah.
But they are extending it to even older people up to the age of 45. The only issue that the benefit is much less as one grows older. Yeah.
So you're saying that it's open to people who are older, perhaps even people my age.
Yeah.
We can all go for because we were feeling a little bit left out, like our lives didn't matter.
Yeah.
When the younger ladies are getting vaccination against cervical cancer and we're not.
I think all lives matter. The only challenge is that we should know that the benefit is more.
Yes, when
for
they're
the
younger.
mapema and your best.
Yeah. Umesikia daktari amesema mapema ndio best, you know. So Linnea, let me ask you something. When it comes to information, you said by the time you were making a decision that your daughter should actually get the vaccination, you had read widely. What do you think, why do you think society and the government should intervene? Because like Dr. has said, this is a case of misinformation. You know, so where do you feel like, you know, you were privileged because you could access perhaps the internet?
Yes.
Like for people in Unushago, you know, who are still there, who do not know the existence of this vaccine, where do you feel like the government should step in terms of creating awareness for on the HPV vaccine?
I think the government should have trainers to get into those local dispensaries or in the villages to at least talk to parents, talk to caregivers, or probably go to schools and talk to girls and let them know the benefit of having HPV. Yeah, because they're not privileged to gather information like those who are in urban setups. Yes. So they might not even know that HPV exists. They might, some of them even don't know about cervical cancer and the infectious related infections like precancer and everything. So if governments could probably have more, invest in trainings, invest like in healthcare, have people to get into, have like workshops, talk to children in schools, yeah, just to increase awareness of the same. Yes.
Thank you so much. And I also believe that that is the call to action today for the government and for, you know, the powers that be, the medical fraternity, to come together and work with even the small organizations, especially in the urban and the peri-urban areas, to be able to create awareness, because most of these myths and misconceptions are coming because of lack of information, you know, and as long as people are not aware about the truth, you know, the truth core ground, as Dr. is saying, then we will continue to avoid, we will continue to demonize something that is supposed to come and actually assist us. Now, we are going to do something small, Dr. Nyongesa, about some of the myths and misconceptions. We have already been able to debunk the HPV vaccination is not safe. We've been able to debunk the HPV vaccination can lead to infertility. And, you know, there was a myth and a misconception as I was doing my research that said getting the HPV vaccine will encourage adolescents to be more sexually promiscuous. What do you say about that?
Okay, so promiscuity is a moral issue, and it has nothing to do with immunization.
Yes.
In fact, the children we are immunizing, we are not immunizing them to protect them from becoming promiscuous. We are immunizing them to protect them from a virus that can cause diseases in future. So we still have, as parents, to keep an eye on our children, teach them about sex education, how to take care of themselves, just like any other child who has not been immunized. And this continues from adolescent up to adulthood.
Yes.
And this HPV virus is common. It's everywhere. Over 50% of the men have it, over 80% of the women have it. So it is a virus that you'll pick up somehow, whether you like it or not. And then the pickup rate is even higher when you become sexually active.
Yes.
And science has shown that majority of human beings somehow become sexually active at one point in their life.
Yeah.
Unless now you'll be, I don't know whether you become a nun or something. But even before you become a nun, there's some growth in between, and you may have been exposed. So we are just looking at the bigger picture. We are trying to prevent cervical cancer and other types of cancers that are related to HPV. We are also trying to prevent, we call it genital warts. So it is more important to immunize now so that we prevent reaching that problem in future that we are foreseeing, and we are not protecting against promiscuity. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So there you've had it, because we've been able to debunk a number of myths and misconceptions. If you're just joining us, let me bring you up to speed. We have been able to debunk HPV vaccination is not safe. HPV vaccination can lead to infertility. HPV vaccination is not effective at preventing cervical cancer. And finally, getting HPV vaccine will encourage adolescents to be more sexually promiscuous. So what other myths and misconceptions do you have, and how you can definitely reach us on all our social media platforms and tell us what you've had out there, because we are confident with the research that has been done. We are confident in the product, and I believe we can be able to answer all the questions. Now, before we take a break, Daktari, kindly expound for me the process. If someone is at home and they're trying to figure out, okay, fine then, so I've heard about this, but the school themselves have not told me anything about HPV, yet I have teenage daughters, or I have, prepubescent or adolescent girls. What is the process for getting your daughters vaccinated?
So because these are minors, anybody below the age of 18 will need parental consent. So during the pilot, it was rolled out in schools, but parents were encouraged to give consent. Fortunately, this vaccine is available in major public hospitals.
Yes.
The ones like in Nairobi, it's available at Kenyatta Hospital. You walk in, it's free. The government has paid for it.
Yeah.
So it is free for all the age between 9 and 14 years. But beyond 15 to 45, you can have it, but probably at your own cost, because that is not covered by the government. Yeah. So it is easily accessible. You take your child for the first dose, and then after about 6 to 12 months, the child can get the second dose. But if they delay and go after 15 years, then you get the first dose. After about 2 months, you get the second dose. After 6 months, you get the third dose to improve on protection. And we know that HPV vaccine, so long as you are sexually active and you are taking on new partners, it is important that you get protected. And that's why the FDA has approved it up to the age of 45. I'm sure they assume that at 45, most people are more or less settled because they say life begins at 40.
At 40.
So still at 40, people are still unsettled. But by the age of 45, you need to settle down, stop getting any new partners, because you'll be still at risk of getting new HPV infection, and especially the high-risk type. The high-risk type are 18 and 16. Those can cause cervical cancer. And also, if you are you do, apart from just sexual intercourse, people who do oral sex can get the HPV infected into their throat. Anal sex, you can get HPV put into your anal area. So all those are precautions that we need to make, and probably stick to a monogamous relationship to avoid all these risks. Because if you are reckless, despite the vaccine, you are more at risk of getting even more virulent, more aggressive types of HPV virus, because the vaccine does not protect against all the strains. There are like over 140 strains of HPV.
Wow.
Yeah. So it cannot protect against all of them. So the more you get more new partners, you keep on accumulating new viruses. And this can expose you to STDs and even HIV. So don't just fear HPV alone, fear other bigger diseases. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a very informative and insightful place to actually take a break. And then when we'll be back, we will have our question and answer session. Don't go far away.
I think it's very important for the government to take the initiative to like just roll out the vaccines and prevent like long-term burdens of healthcare and all that, because I feel like cancer is a very expensive affair, and if there's a way like the government can put in measures to like prevent it, then I think that's a good thing.
A vaccine that is used to prevent cervical cancer, and that the government has now rolled an initiative for girls from the age of 9 to 14 to get it for free at government hospitals. And I think it is a very great initiative because, one, it is free. Two, girls at that young age could really, if the prevention is better than cure, as they say. So yeah, it is a very great initiative, and I think they should partner with schools.
It will really benefit the children, especially the women, and I think they should also create awareness, especially to the slums, because in those areas they don't really get the information that it's needed. So it is very important that they create awareness starting from those remote areas, especially from the slums. Then wakikuja huku kwingine.
Wamama tupelekeni watoto, si kwa manyumba lakini kwa hospitali, ndio tukaweze kujua zaidi kuhusu hii shindano. Ndio tuweze kusaidika zaidi.
The government, I think, should try to talk to people and explain more, because mama akisikia msichana wake anaenda kudungwa shindano na ajui ni shindano gani. We've been to corona phase, we've been many stories have been about corona. So akisikia kuna mtoto wake anaenda kudungwa such disease, ataenda ataambia walimu kwa shule na mahali wenye watadungwa wasidungwe shindano, because there's no much information about HPV. So it's a good thing, but I think the government should at least push the agenda of creating more awareness about HPV.
Before the break, we're looking at certain factors that are crippling the rollout of the HPV vaccine. And one of them has been dissemination of information. So joining us is somebody who has actively interacted with the vaccination in terms of offering awareness. And she's seated with us in our audience, and she'll tell us a little bit more. So if you're at home wondering, where can I find information about the HPV vaccine, then Damaris will be in a position to tell us. So Damaris, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for this time. I'm Romia Damaris from Hope Worldwide. I've worked with vaccinating girls 10 to 14 on HPV vaccine. So you'll find that the girls has to be given consent by the parent. So we inform first of all the parent. It's a community-based organization. So we inform the parents, then the parents has to give consent and come with the girl so that they can be given the vaccine. And so as to identify the girl has been given the vaccine, there is a card which indicates the dose that she has received and when to come for the second dose. And that has really helped to increase the numbers on HPV vaccine.
Thank you so much for that information, Damaris. So as you've had, for any girl to actually get the HPV vaccine, consent has to be offered. So the parent, the guardian has to have offered consent for the girl to be vaccinated. And once she's been vaccinated, she'll be given a card. And remember, this is a community-based organization that is involved in offering this. So please, the internet is a treasure trove of information. Find out from the internet, find out from the churches, find out from the clinics, find out from any health facility that will be able to tell you. And like Dr. so rightfully said, public hospitals, it's definitely there and it's free of charge. So if you're sitting there wondering what's the next step, perhaps visiting the closest public health facility would be a good place to start. So off to our first question. We have our first question by Gabriel.
To the doctor, first I must congratulate you. You've done a great job concerning the campaigns that you've done around all over the country. I remember the second month of every year, you are doing campaigns on cervical cancer. So maybe to the question, you've talked about myths and misconception as one of the effects or or the factors that leads to most of the people not coming to take the cervical cancer vaccine. So apart from the myths and misconception, are there some of the challenges that you are facing as doctors during the campaigns or ministering of the vaccination of the cervical cancer? Thank you.
Excellent question, Gabriel. So aside from the myths and the misconception, and I know that this project was rolled out in 2019. What are some of the challenges, other challenges that you've experienced, you and your fellow people in the in the medical field?
So one is the delay of the parents sending the children back for the second dose. After they get the first dose, they disappear. So it's a wake-up call that children should be taken back to the hospital for the second dose. And there's also room for catch-up. Yes. They can catch up. Even if 6 months, 12 months have passed, the parents should not fear. It is better late than never. So you can do a catch-up. Another issue that happened, a challenge, was really during the COVID-19. This disrupted the continuation of that vaccination. Another challenge is more physical and economical barrier. Like a parent has to really plan time off school, because these children are in school, to take them to the clinic. And these are well children, they are not sick. So that poses some challenge. Maybe they don't have transport to go, or that the hospital is far from where they live, and that poses a challenge for the same.
Thank you so much. And even through that, we still commend your relentless fight against cervical cancer by pushing through all of those barriers. So asante sana daktari, and of course to the medical fraternity at home. Gabriel, I hope your question has been answered.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. So our next question is from Esther.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My question is to Ma'am Linnea. So, according to the myths and everything that is happening in the society, many people are opposing this vaccine. So, what are some of the challenges that you and your daughter have gone through?
Good. Yeah, I mean, because the challenges are not only faced by the medical fraternity, even for the mothers, even for the mothers, especially if maybe she's spotted with a card. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced? Because you'll be representing a demographic of people who have opted to keep quiet about the vaccine. They take their daughter silently and they keep quiet because they do not want to be stigmatized. So please, what are some of the challenges you've experienced?
Thank you for the question. Talking about challenges that we've faced or we're still facing, on the side of my daughter, I think for the minors, they don't talk about it much because again this is something that happens in school, so it's in group, and when they move from one school to another, they assume that probably some other girls have also been vaccinated, and they don't talk about it so much, so it's not like a stigma to her. Just the same way like when probably I took her for BCG or polio vaccine, something that was done and forgotten. She doesn't sit and wait for maybe polio or TB and then sit and see is it coming or not coming. But now as a parent, as a caregiver, we have to be very intentional about what we do to our children, about like parenting is intentional. Decisions that we make to the minors, they believe in us, they believe us. So because the decisions made out of sound mind. So when I made that decision and I gave my consent, I knew it was a good thing. So when in forums and probably I talk about it, there are those people who will still feel like, no, this is not the right thing to, you made a mistake, this is not the right thing to do. Like we're waiting to see if ABCD will happen. But there are those who are also embracing, and as I talk about it, there are those who are embracing and are positive and opting to take their children for the vaccine. Yes, so challenges are there, and you talk about it positively. So even as people feel like, this and that will happen to your daughter, maybe this and that, they will not have many children or whatever. I disapproved them with the facts because I did research and I consulted the medics. Yes.
That's excellent. I mean, I love the way you've answered it. You know, it's not so much, this is what I went through, but this is how I'm dealing with it. Because I believe day in, day out, you meet new people every single day. So challenges are presented in various ways and in various situations. But I'm so happy that you already have a foolproof idea of what you will do if the case does present itself. So Esther, I hope your question has been answered.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Esther. And then the next question is from Andera.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Andera Stanislaus, and my question is to you, Doctor. There being these challenges such as myths and misconceptions and even the cultural barriers. Therefore, you as either organization or government, what are some of the strategies you have put in place to control the same so that to hype up the vaccine uptake?
Okay, good question. So what are we rolling out right now to combat the naysayers?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. So one is having this vaccine available for free. The government is paying for it. So any child between the age of 9 to 14 will get it for free. And it's one of the strategies the government is using, because we know that as a country we are spending a lot of money on treating cervical cancer which is patients are presenting in advanced stage. So we want to prevent the scenario. The HPV vaccine can take about 15 to 20 to 30 years, the HPV virus in the body, before it causes a disease. So we are trying to prevent so that we have a healthy nation in 15, 20, 30 years coming ahead of us. Another strategy the government is using is by creating awareness. During Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, like we did with the National Cancer Institute, we hyped, and they were even giving vaccine during that forum. Also during these campaigns, they are going to school trying to sensitize the teachers, inviting the parents just to talk about it, to understand the importance of this vaccination. So those are the major strategies. And maybe before we went to a break, the people were worried about this HPV, but you should understand the beauty about this HPV virus is that most of the people will fight it off. 80% of the women by the age of 30, you've already cleared this virus from your body. Most of the men, over 90% of the men, can also clear the virus from the body. But unfortunately, only a small percentage of this virus persists and it causes cancer or genital warts. And that is what we are trying to fight, because this small percentage can actually wreak havoc in the population as years go on.
Thank you so much. I like how you noticed that you had sent the audience into pandemonium with the 140 types. So if you were also a little bit antsy before the break, because you heard of the HPV and its prevalence and how many types are there you've had it. By the time it's only a small margin that of course persists and morphs into something a little bit more serious. So that said, it is still important to take our children, our daughters for protection, so that even the small margin can completely be eliminated. So our next and final question of the day is from Sharon.
Thank you. My question is to the doctor. What are the signs and symptoms of HPV-related issues such as cervical cancer?
Okay.
Thank you so much for your question. So human papillomavirus, or HPV, does not cause any signs and symptoms until one gets a disease related to the virus. For example, genital warts. These are very common. The beauty is they are they resolve by themselves, and if they persist, there's treatment for it. Another one is cervical cancer. So women will present with the vaginal discharge, pain during intercourse, spotting after intercourse, and abnormal bleeding. If it is throat cancer, they will have throat pain and soreness and difficulties in swallowing. If we look at anal cancer, there will be itchiness around the anal area, even a discharge or a wound or ulcer. If it is vulval cancer, you may experience itchiness around the vulval area, an ulcer, or even bleeding if it is in severe cases. Fortunately, all these cancers are treatable if diagnosed early. And the take-home message is, we were just talking about it.
Yes.
Either you abstain, stay in a monogamous relationship, or use protection. And also try as much as possible to limit the number of sexual partners so that you don't keep on capturing or getting new viruses. Because out of 140, the more partners you have, the higher the chance of getting these different strains, and some of them can be serious. But the beauty is most of these viruses clear, but it is good either you stay on those three things. This is sexual behavior, where you abstain, monogamous relationship, or you get HPV vaccination. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is really well put. I hope my audience and of course the people at home are taking down notes and are noting what our very knowledgeable doctor is telling us. So we have come to the end of today's very informative, interactive and insightful episode of Dadas Show. As always, we encourage you at home to take part in this and any conversation that we have by getting in touch with us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly at Ashiko, the host, across all social media platforms. Now, my take on today's topic is very simple. Just like many major decisions, it's always important to do your research and weigh the evidence before you take actions. So you might be pro to the HPV vaccine, like Linnea, or you might be anti. So what are you basing your decision on? Have you done your research? Have you weighed the evidence before you have taken action? So it's very important for any decision that you make, especially in relation to the life of those we love, that we actually heed to advice, do our research, and of course, take in all the evidence and all the statistics that have been provided by the medical fraternity before we make a decision. So as always, you can always share with us your thoughts and your opinions at KBC Channel 1. So on behalf of my wonderful location partner, Best Western Upper Hill here in Nairobi, and the production team at KBC and myself, Ashiko Mbune, I wish you all a very wonderful week. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we will see you next time, same place, same discussion, same show. Until then, bye-bye.